Not a still body in studio. Welcome back. Popular Gomora actor Ntobeko Sishi has exited the show to focus on his music career, or in fact to refocus on that, many might say. He's best known for his breakout role as a rebellious teenager on the hit telenovela, but has now switched gears somewhat to focus on music, what he considered his first love. Sishi has also recently released his new EP. It's titled A Night on the Hills, a new chapter in his story, and he joins us now live in our Randburg studios for the journey that's gone by and the journey ahead. Ntobeko, it's great to see you. Thanks for popping by.
It's great to see you too.
Gosh, man. You know, we're smiling mischievously because we've had several run-ins before sitting here. Yeah. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. Sure. But I find it very interesting that people speak about you heading into music when music is what you've always done, actually.
Yeah. I think it's very... I mean, you would know, obviously. Yeah. We met because of that.
Right.
A lot of people think that I haven't been doing it and this is the first time I'm doing it. But actually, I did start with that before, yeah.
Right. But let's rewind a couple of steps. Sure. Most people who are watching probably know you mostly from Gomorrah. You acknowledge that role as having changed your life. Where did it start?
So I'd say it was life-changing because, first of all, I didn't expect it. You know, I was just a student thinking that, you know, I'd have to go work in corporate a couple of years. And then I got a phone call. Yo, we saw your audition tape from 4 years ago for this other thing you auditioned for. I didn't get that part. I was actually quite sad about that. But it was all for a reason.
Right.
Then they called me in to audition for this part. They thought I'd be good for this part. I auditioned for it, and yeah, that's how Ntobeko happened. That was beginning of 2020.
Sure. And people don't know that you're actually an economics major. I mean,
yeah.
You studied, and you actually did a postgrad as well.
Yes. So my undergrad, I got a BCom in economics and finance. Yeah. And then my postgrad in entrepreneurship.
Imagine that. On scholarship, by the way, because I remember that detail too. I mean, but where did the switch up happen? Or was this always the plan for you? You know, this idea that I'm going to get the bag, get this degree, chow course, as I said, UCT, and then eventually I'm going to pursue my interests?
Yeah, I'd say I've always known that I'm supposed to be a performing artist.
Right.
Because I've always wanted to have an impact on the world. I've known that I'm good at academia. I can learn things. The economics and finance thing is also something I found myself passionate about because it's the study of human beings. I think as an actor as well, you want to be able to study behavior, even though it's in a completely different context. But I've always wanted to be a performing artist and integrate the two, business and arts. I've always said I want to be a business arts trailblazer, somebody who teaches people at some point how to make money from the arts. And I'm currently putting that into practice right now.
Sure.
I'm not saying I'm making money.
Yeah. We're listening to you closely. That's kind of the soft sheet underneath all of that. But you've always been busy, man. Like, you know, from the time I can remember, you've always had multiple things happening at the same time. I didn't even know that you were auditioning while, you know, trying to pass some of your courses at UCT. How was juggling all of that stuff at that time? Because being a student alone is quite
hard.
difficult.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd say the word struggle was right. You don't have to correct yourself there. Yeah, the moment I started, so first year was great, second year was great, and then third year is when I started like dabbling in acting. I was on a high school drama actually, and there was a course I did not do well at, and I realized that I'm going to have to find that balance. Because I always did quite well in school. So it was a bit of a shock for me when that happened, and I actually failed the course. And then I was like, okay, cool. So are we going to focus on academics right now, or are we going to focus on the acting? I was like, I'm on a scholarship, so let me finish that for 4 years, finish my 4 years. Once I'm done with my 4 years, then I can focus on this full time. So, yeah, it was a big risk to kind of like, because my, degree is somewhat gathering dust. But it's something that I've always known that this is what I want to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And let's speak a bit more about that. You know, at the time when failure comes around, especially at that stage, it feels like the world is crumbling. And I suppose now you have the benefit of hindsight, and I'm sure you see that failure differently yourself.
Yes. I'd say, like, prioritization, what do you feel is important for you at this time? Some failures are not Actually, I don't think any failure is a failure. I think failure is good because it's always a learning. I've learned more from failing than I've ever done from succeeding. And I'd say that being in my comfort zone always puts me in a place where I feel like, okay, I'm okay. I don't have to try out something new. I don't know, and I don't really learn in that state.
Right.
But whenever I go, you know what, let me get uncomfortable. Let's, leave this, paying job, whatever, and pursue something that's a bit risky, like, my own business and the music that is my business right now. It's a big risk, but for me, I know that that's where I grow the most. So it's always worth the failure.
Yeah. You also gave me an impression that you try things, even though, sometimes you're not sure how they're going to turn out. So you've got the finance and economics degree, but are you a trained actor? I'm
actually not. So I don't have like a qualification. And I don't. So it was just diving in. I'll never forget advice I got from Katlego Danke. She said, if you're going to do it, just do it.
Right.
Like, just don't worry about, don't look to your left and your right. Don't, put your toes in. Just dive in. Because I was a bit, like, what am I doing on such a big platform? And I think over time now, obviously, I've done the diligence of learning and taking the steps to become a better actor. But when it started, I didn't have any training whatsoever. For 2 years, I had nothing.
Gee, going on nothing but sheer talent. Yeah. And you mentioned Katlego Danke. She obviously acted as Nthati on Gomora. We've spoken to Mekoni Chumi, who was Mamsonto several times. You get a sense that, what Siriti did in that production was being deliberate, bringing in new talent, the likes of yourselves and several others, but also matching with the vets who've been in this for quite some time.
Yeah.
How did you find the dynamic of being with those people, especially because you weren't really alone in this new acting space?
Yeah.
There were several of you who were starting out.
Yeah. So for the other young people, that was really inspiring to be around people who, all of us were kind of nervous, and all of us were kind of trying to hide our nerves until we reached the point where we were comfortable around each other to say, yo, like, especially and that was, one of my closest friends. We would talk after every episode. Yes.
Yeah.
We would talk after every episode, like, dude, what did I do? What was that? Like, I hate that, the angle was there, and, like, why did I make that performance choice? But then with the veterans, what I found is just, it's remarkable because, you hear stories of veterans and people who've been doing this for a long time, kind of feeling like because they're better and they've been doing this for a long time, they don't want to impart any knowledge. But, the veterans on Gomorrah for me were I learned so much from all of them.
Yeah.
I loved wrestling with Zolisa. He had some really interesting scenes.
Right.
That father-son dynamic was amazing. The mother-son dynamic with Tembi was amazing. Mom Corny as well, being the villain and working with her, that was also, I learned so much from her, from everyone. And so asking for advice for me, I always knew I'd get an answer.
Sure.
I could never be shy to do so.
It's amazing to watch because it seems like a family has come out of that production. And I mean that literally, outside of the on-screen performance, you guys seem to be very close. What do you reckon you walk out with from that set?
First of all, continuing to believe that if you're going to do something, do it. Like, just do it.
Sure.
Don't half-heartedly just jump in, dive in. And if you drown, you'll learn how to swim, along the way. And so for me, it's, let's say, it's that. And it's also, there's something beautiful about working with people who are happy to be in a place, in a space, who are happy to learn from each other. And that's an energy now I want to bring into any work environment that I'm in, being there for each other, because it's that community that makes the project a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So I learned that.
Sure, and we can see it because in your other work as well, you pour all of you into it, including the music.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier on that I've known you as a music person, actually. Yeah. I was shocked when I saw you acting, if anything. And it's been wonderful to watch, man, from... O-Week, when you're starting out at UCT, I remember your performance at that time, all the way now to the kind of music that you're making. It's described as film noir sonic palettes that you offer us.
Nice.
Hey. Tell us a bit more about that. I mean, it's clearly what you really love doing.
I don't ever want to say I love it more than acting, by the way. There's no first love, it's just I love both. But in terms of the music for me has always been a way for me to tell my story in a way that's kind of unfiltered. I do speak a lot about things that are very close to my heart, and I found that I connect more with people when I do that. And also beyond that, I also found that when other people are going through similar things, they can find a source of comfort knowing that somebody else is going through something similar. So for me, it's really important to tell those stories. And now I'm, into sound design and designing the sound around my music more beyond just the storytelling and the lyrics and the writing and the melodies. But all of them, for me, it's such a beautiful thing to see a project come together. Yeah, and it's come together spectacularly well. I mean, from you making us cry to you helping us, those of us who can't dance, it's all been really spectacular. You've been very open about the relationship you've had with your support structure. Those are around and those who aren't around as well, including your late moms. Condolences about that, by the way. Thank you.
I do wonder, now that you're here, and trust me, you're a big deal, I do wonder what you reckon she would say.
Sure. I think she'll be... I know she's proud.
Yeah.
I know she will be proud. And for me, it's the people she's left, who've just inspired me more. Like my aunt, Mam Kulu, Malume, my cousins, my friends, and beyond, my biggest support structure is God.
Yeah.
I turn to Him for everything. So it's also feeling her presence in all the people that I'm surrounded by right now. So I know they're proud, so I know, she's proud.
Without a doubt. May you never ever question that. Your rise has been amazing. Those of us who know your work ethic also acknowledge that this is just the beginning. Ntobeko Sishi, thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time on the AM Report. There you have it. Actor and singer, maybe producer in the future, Ntobeko Sishi, joining us here on the AM Report. Thanks again for popping by.
Thanks.
All right, so if you don't know what kind of music he makes, take a listen to this.
She's rocking, she couldn't stop if she wanted. I couldn't try to stand watching, popping away all the problems. She's on a roll tonight. Hey, don't you wanna dance? Oh, I can.
And there's your jam for this Friday evening.
There you go.